So we have had our share of hiccups this evening, and it is all fine because life is a hiccup. I think that it's how we roll with those hiccups. So for this evening's sermon, I am going to talk a little bit about how Temple Israel has rolled with the hiccups, with the punches. 525,600 minutes, 525,000 moments so dear, 525,600 minutes. How do you measure life, measure a year? So do you guys remember that song? Flash your lights if you remember that song. Seasons of Love, right? Can any of you remember where you were when you first heard the breakdown into minutes for exactly how long a year lasts? 525,600 minutes. Wow, that's all? Or for some of us, that many? Well, I remember exactly where I was. It was 5:30 in the morning, the first Saturday in June, and my friends and I all jumped into my car and drove from Michigan to New York City in one very long day. The year, 1996. And I'm about to make a bunch of you, or actually a bunch of us, feel very old. This was 25 years ago. My friends and I had tickets to the opening of the groundbreaking Broadway show Rent that wrestled with hot topics of the AIDS crisis, homelessness, Y2K fears, and GLBTQ rights. To us, this was our road trip to connect with one another in a meaningful way. We were four 17-year-olds traveling across country without our parents. We had backpacks, guitars, Doc Martens shoes, and flannel shirts under our corduroy overalls. By far, we were the coolest thing on the road. But it didn't matter. We had each other. We had the time to explore ourselves, our connection, and the world around us. And we had one CD to listen to the entire car ride there, Rent. So suffice it to say, after the 10-hour drive and almost 3 decades full of mixtapes with Seasons of Love in the playlist, the words of Rent are now permanently embedded in my head. But one line has never gotten old to me. One line seems to return to my consciousness every time I crave that feeling of connection. 525,600 minutes. How do you measure your life? So let me ask everyone here one more question. How many of us here or remotely watching at home could have predicted that in 25 years from the release of Rent and that iconic song, Seasons of Love, that we would be sitting in a drive-in Rosh Hashanah service, wearing face masks and sitting socially distanced from our friends, neighbors, and loved ones to celebrate this Jewish New Year and Shabbat? Well, if you did predict this, then I want you picking my lotto numbers next week. But look at this. This seems insane. Look where we are sitting. Look at us now. At this very minute, this Erev Rosh Hashanah, we're sitting in our cars or at home viewing services through a computer screen, trying to open our hearts wide, fill our voices with familiar music, speak the ancient words of our liturgy, and desperately shrink the distance between ourselves and the next human being, just for a taste of community, of connection, of familiar, comforting, informal togetherness that if you are like me, you have been craving for the past 6 months. Yeah, it has been 6 months. 6 months since we last had services together here at Temple Israel in our gorgeous Bertha Abbess Sanctuary. 6 months since we were able to reach across the aisles and join arms in our Shabbat blessings. 6 months since we could hold our friend in mourning and say Kaddish with them for their lost loved one. 6 months since we could gather together to share food and stories at Oneg that could last all night, or until Jeannie and her team subtly whisked us out by flashing the overhead lights. But if I've learned anything as an empath, it's that we only crave the things that have once brought us the most fulfilling connection and joy that is no longer available to us. That's not to say that a cold Diet Coke or a milk chocolate bar wouldn't do the trick short term, but I'm talking about a much deeper desire that exists within our neshamot, our souls, that leaves an empty space within us when it's not being filled. From last Rosh Hashanah through Hanukkah, our congregation came together for seemingly endless opportunities to celebrate our diverse and authentic community. We installed a new rabbi, good job there, welcomed Brian Kellert as our Director of Engagement and Youth, reinvigorated our Temple Brotherhood, and created a new Tifty Youth Lounge. People were hearing about our unapologetic acceptance and wanted to become a part of Temple Israel. It felt really great. This synagogue was full of laughter and a sense of community that was truly contagious. Our congregation was healing and moving to a place of true vibrancy and vitality. The momentum was palpable and seemingly unstoppable. And then came the virus that threatened to immobilize our community. But this congregation, Temple Israel of Greater Miami, we chose to move forward with an unrelenting enthusiasm to meet our congregants in their homes and on their screens through innovative daily programming and Quarantine U, meaningful weekly prayer experiences like Shabbat Shirah and Havdalah, and monthly social and communal outlets for us to unwind like Parents Brunch and Learn and Zoom Versations. We did not skip a beat. Sunday and Hebrew school continued without a gap and even extended throughout the early summer months to keep our kids connected. Weekly Friday and Saturday morning services continued to be live streamed, although now with the added component of a chat feature, which enabled us all the opportunity to express our moments of gratitude, our prayers for healing, and our well wishes for the week ahead. Torah study, committee meetings, and even the installation of our new board of trustees filled our screens and bolstered our vision of moving Temple Israel towards a time of health. And with the creation of Camp Ani Po, 21 of our youngest congregants were able to experience all that Jewish summer camp has to offer from the comfort and safety of their own homes. But there were also times to come together that carried a much heavier weight on our community. Moments in our individual and collective lives that were latent with the desire for deep personal and meaningful connection. As a congregation, we supported one another with graveside funerals, memorial services, and countless shivas to honor the lives of those lost. Even through the impersonal and awkward presence of a screen, Temple Israel remained lovingly present for one another through comfort and through prayer. But these successes haven't just been with our community for the past 6 months. We have always valued and encouraged togetherness through support, love, and connection. So why would anyone worry that the mere absence of gathering in our building would take that feeling of connection and community away? If you're sitting in the parking lot, squint, but I want you to look in front of you. This is our synagogue and our beloved sanctuary. And you know what? We don't have to be sitting in it to experience the togetherness that we have so badly been missing. We have been here for nearly 100 years. We are here now, and we hope to be here well into the future. And throughout it all, the fact remains the same. Even without a building to gather in Temple Israel, we have never left one another's sides. Whether on the screen or in the aisles, our supporting community remains strong and unified. 525,600 minutes. How do you measure a year? This has been one bizarre year, to say the least. But one thing has remained constant throughout it all. Our congregation is built upon the values of togetherness, inclusivity, diversity, and compassion for all. So I ask you, how do you measure a year? Because I think it's through the relationships and the people who make Temple Israel more than just a synagogue. When we come together this new year and always, Temple Israel is a family. And as our sign says, and it hangs on the building and will continue to hang on the building, we may not think alike, we may not all pray alike, we may not all love alike or vote alike, but one thing that we do all have in common is that Temple Israel is our home. And just like every home, it's not the four walls that create the shelter, it's the people inside. It's you, it's us, it's Temple Israel. Shana Tova, Happy New Year. May we continue to go from strength to strength, and let us all say, Amen.
Amen.